Quiet Fire 88.5 2 Triple R. You can find out more on my Instagram at Quiet Fire Radio. You're on Quiet Fire. This is Jeremy. And now on the show, I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce all the way from WA, currently isolated from the rest of the country, on everything but Zoom, fortunately. This is Ashley from Cold Meat. Ashley, how are you today?
Hello, I'm good, thanks. How are you going?
I'm really good. I am so thrilled to have you on the show. We've had a bunch of false starts, unfortunately, but finally we're here.
Yeah, we got there in the end.
We got there. Tell me, so you have just released your most recent album 3 weeks ago now?
Yeah, it would be about 3 weeks.
And the album is called Hot and Flustered. Tell me a little bit about Hot and Flustered. Where did that name come from?
I think we kind of liked the sound of it because the album and our music's quite angry punk. It's quite like a cute kind of name that you might hear like a mum saying, like getting a bit frustrated or something, like, oh, I'm feeling a bit hot and flustered. But I guess also like the kind of cheeky sexual overtones as well. I don't know. I think we just thought it was funny at band practice one day.
You're not wrong.
Brainstorming names, yeah.
No, I absolutely love this band. I'm so thrilled by it. I was really, really fortunate that Natalie, who's the station manager here at 2RRR, got the email, listened to a little bit of you and just immediately thought of me and was just like, Jeremy needs to listen to this. And I was instantly grabbed by it. But you guys have actually been around for a couple of years now. I'm kind of late to the party. Tell me a little bit about how long have you been around for?
Actually, we realised we've been together just over 5 years, which is pretty crazy. It doesn't feel that long, but yeah, 5 years from the start of March it is.
So tell me a little bit about the band. Who's in the band with you?
So there's 4 of us. It's our good friend Charlotte on drums, Tim on bass, and my partner Kyle on guitar.
And to describe to people at home the music, you've got a very, very strong 80s punk aesthetic, and it's very much rooted in that. Tell me a little bit about your musical background. What was it that drew you to that style? It seems so natural to you guys to play that style of music. It's amazing.
Oh, cool, thanks. I guess we all kind of met each other from going to shows in Perth. I think we all kind of got into punk around the same time as well. So, I think I was maybe a little bit late to the game. I think those guys kind of got into it when they were in high school. When I was in high school, I was listening to a lot of emo and I guess some 90s stuff. And then after leaving school, kind of got into more 70s punk. And that's something that the 4 of us kind of had in common. Because in Perth, I guess there's a lot of hardcore and more metal kind of inclined punk and hardcore. So I think it's actually the reason that the 4 of us got together and started Cold Meat is because we wanted to make music that kind of sounded a bit like, I don't know, stuff like X-Ray Specs and 70s stuff that a lot of other people went into. Yeah, formed strong friendships from that as well.
What about the you touched briefly on the cultural landscape of Perth there. I mean, Perth has given rise to, I remember certainly in my in my 20s, it was massive. Perth was a cultural hub. You know, one of my favorite bands, The Drones, is originally from Perth, but they were so supportive of the culture and arts that they just had so many bands per capita coming out of there for such a long period of time. Is Perth still that type of place, or has it changed in the last decade?
I think it definitely is still a really great place for a lot of music. Yeah, there was a few years ago, I think just before we started, where there was some really amazing, interesting bands like Astral Travel and Golden Stuff, and before that, like Extortion. So I don't know. I suppose I don't think there's as much experimentation in punk as there used to be, but I think there's still some really interesting stuff out there, especially if you're into the heavier stuff.
Amongst your other influences, there was a band also called Good Throb. Can you tell me about them?
Good Throb, one of my favourite bands coming from the UK a few years ago. Well, I guess around the same time we started. They were playing a lot of shows in London around there, and there was some similar bands that we all really got into, like Frau. I think there's some similar members there. And another one called Wolf. really good, aggressive, feminist punk, but really tongue-in-cheek as well, which is what we really, really liked. And then I think she played bass in Good Throb. BB, Bryony Bainan, who lived in Sydney for a little while, started BB and the Blitz, which is another big influence for us, I think. And we played a show with them when we were over in Sydney. So yeah, I guess Good Throb and the roots of that band have really kind of inspired us over the years.
Speaking of over the years, the music has changed. You know, I guess on first listen, the music is similar throughout the time. But now that I listen to the new album and I listen to the old stuff you guys have, it feels like you've been on quite a journey. There's the early stuff felt sort of generically angry, I guess you would say, and now it seems you've got a really clear direction in who you're targeting with your lyrics. What's sort of been the change over the last few years for you personally that's shifted your momentum in music?
Yeah, I guess growing up a little bit, and also I think when we first started, like Tim had never played bass before, so this is the first band that he's actually played bass in, which is amazing. And Charlotte learnt drums basically in this band. So I think when we first started, it was dumber because we literally didn't have an option. We just played kind of straight up, more maybe primal music. And I guess over the years we've kind of channeled it a little bit more and experimented a bit more with different riffs and drum beats, and so then I think I just tried to make my lyrics a bit more pointed and specific or sophisticated, maybe, just to kind of match the others, I suppose, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tell me as well, the other part of it is that as a punk group, punk itself comes alive in the live format. What's it been like releasing an album in a time where you can't do that? What have you guys had to change or adopt, or what's been the attitude of the band at the moment?
Yeah, it's been pretty interesting, actually. We don't jam a whole bunch, maybe like once a month. And we play kind of infrequently, actually. We kind of don't want people to get sick of us. So yeah, it was a real shame to cancel our launch, obviously. But apart from that, I guess it's not a huge change of affairs. But I am really looking forward to going to shows again. I think people are really going to appreciate going to shows after all of this, like actually being in a place where you are not allowed to. People are going to really appreciate that connection again, which I think is actually really exciting. That's one positive from all this, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I've that feeling of being at a show and having something in common, I should say, with so many strangers is such an incredibly powerful thing. What do you think about the landscape of punk music across Australia for a band like yourself? Who do you kind of look up to and admire across sort of punk bands all over the country at the moment?
Well, as far as Perth goes, my favourites at the moment are Paranoia's No Future. And there's some really amazing bands in Sydney and Melbourne. So every time we go over there to play, it's always really exciting because we get to see new bands. We really like Ubik, they're a Melbourne band. Hacker, amazing female-fronted hardcore. They're both in Melbourne. As far as Sydney go, Nilex. Yeah, so there's some really, really cool stuff. And I think over East, they definitely are a lot more experimental, and there's a lot of like post-punk and kind of no wave and electronic influences in punk, which I'm really into. Heaps of women as well leading the way, which is always really exciting to see. Like we have that to a degree in Perth, but yeah, when you go over East, I really find like these women are like owning the stage and owning the scene.
Good to see. Yeah. Good to see. Tell me a little bit about Helter Skelter Records as well. Like I've been looking across their catalog as well. They're obviously a big supporter of everything you guys have done over the last few years. Tell me about your relationship with them and kind of what they're doing for the Perth music scene at the moment.
Yeah, so that label's actually Kyle, who plays guitar in Cold Meat. That's his label, and Distro. So yeah, he's released everything we've done, and yeah, I suppose I'm biased, but I love everything he releases and everything is Distro. He's really, really passionate about getting good punk to people and also supporting bands that he really believes in, I guess, and really is into. But yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a shame at the moment because things aren't selling so well from his distro. So I think he's taking it easy a little bit, but hopefully when this all blows over, there'll be some new releases that he can pump out to the people.
Absolutely. Shout out to Kyle at Helter Skelter. And of course, he is still printing on the very beautiful, very gorgeous vinyl format as well. So you don't have to go to him and buy a CD that's gathering dust in your attic for the next 6 months. That's right, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's all vinyl. And I think how he does cassettes as well.
One of the other songs that really stuck out for me with Cold Meat and got quite a bit of coverage was Maternity Stomp as a sort of ode to motherhood. I wasn't overly, I mean, forgive me if I've been a little bit slow in my research here, but I wasn't overly familiar with a lot of punk music that sort of had that, an ode to motherhood. Is that the first motherhood-based punk song, or are you familiar with something else, Ash?
Actually, I think I was kind of inspired by Poison Girls with that song, which is an amazing punk band on the Crass label from the 70s. Oh, I've completely forgotten her name, but the front woman who recently passed away in the last few years actually was literally a woman, I think, in her 40s or 50s when she started the band. And heaps of her songs were about just the emotional labor of motherhood, and basically how the role of the mother is kind of not really given the respect it deserves in society, I suppose. It's kind of taken for granted that women are the carers oftentimes, or that it's normal to have children and bring children up without a question. So I think that song was really about, it was almost like an ode to that singer who kind of went through it all and then joined a punk band after that. So, which is, you don't really hear about that happening that way around, which I thought was, really, really cool.
That's very cool. Well, the other one that I wanted to touch on as well was Beach Photography, which is track 7 of the new, I can't remember. It's somewhere in there. Is it 7?
Oh, God. I don't.
Beach Photography is amazing because it is the first song that, everything you guys have done, Beach Photography almost has this crossover appeal it sounds like a radio hit. As soon as I heard it, I was, and when I say radio hit, I don't mean here on 2RRR where I play whatever I want. I mean more like, Triple J are going to kind of flog it, and, it might be attached to a, I don't know, a perfume ad in the next few years or something like that.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Did that feel like a departure to you? I mean, for me, when I listen to that, it's such a great song. It's it has the kind of edginess of everything else you've made, but it has this kind of standalone appeal as well, I think.
I guess it's a pretty catchy riff, that one. That song's kind of about Tony Abbott saying that climate change isn't real because if you look at Sydney beaches, you don't see rising sea levels. So it was kind of based on like saying stupid stuff, but then also being in a public space where that becomes like you can't get away from that. You said a really stupid thing, and now that's going to be your brand, and that people are going to talk about that forever now, like you're a moron. So it is really catchy, but that's what it's about, I suppose.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for your time today. I really, really, really appreciate you coming on the show after a number of false starts. I really look forward to you guys coming to Sydney in the next few months. Is there something, I guess there's no point slating anything at the moment, but sometime before the end of the year, you'll be over here, you think?
I really hope so. Yeah, we'd love to come over east again, play some shows once it's all over. Depending on how long that.
I can't wait.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank you so much for joining us today on the show. If I wanted to find out a little bit more about Cold Meat or follow you and your adventures and things like that, where would I go?
Probably Helter Skelter Instagram page, or he's got a Facebook page as well. He kind of just posts everything that we're doing on there. Absolutely.
Or of course, you can jump on Spotify and search for Cold Meat. Look up their most recent album, Hot and Flustered. I guarantee you will love it. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us on Quiet Fire. I will speak to you again soon when you come over this way. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thanks, Jeremy. You too. Bye.
Bye, Ashley. Have a good one, mate. See you later.
Yeah.
Quiet Fire 88. 88.5 2 Triple R. You can find out more on my Instagram at Quiet Fire Radio.